What happened after the Odyssey? The story Homer never told. Odysseus came home. He defeated the suitors. He reunited with his faithful wife. He reclaimed his throne. The end. Right? Wrong. Homer stopped his story at its most satisfying moment, but not at its true ending. Because Odysseus had been given a prophecy, a dark and specific one, that meant he had one final journey left to make, and his real end, the death that actually awaited him, was a strange and tragic one that came, of all places, from the sea itself. This is the sequel almost no one ever tells you, the story that lies just beyond the happy ending. Please like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. We're picking up the story exactly where the Odyssey leaves off, at the supposed happy ending. There are 3 parts to what comes next. The strange and specific prophecy he was given, the final inland journey he was forced to make, and then the shocking, deeply ironic death that ended it all. And that last part is a detail that films and retellings almost never show you, the true, forgotten, and largely lost fate of the greatest survivor in all of mythology. Let's begin with the eerie warning he was given years earlier, down in the land of the dead. Cast your mind back to when Odysseus descended into the underworld itself. There, the blind prophet Tiresias gave him a prophecy, and crucially, it didn't end at his homecoming. Simply reaching Ithaca would not be enough to find peace. To finally make his peace with Poseidon, the god who had tormented him for a decade, Odysseus was told he had one more strange task to perform. He must take an oar, an ordinary ship's oar, and carry it on his shoulder, walking inland, away from the sea, until he reached a people so far from any coast that they had never once seen the ocean. He would know he'd arrived when a stranger, seeing the oar on his shoulder, asked him why he carried a winnowing fan, a farming tool so far from any field. There, in that landlocked place where the sea was utterly unknown, he was to plant the oar, offer a sacrifice to Poseidon, and only then would he be forgiven. So think about what this really means. Odysseus, after 20 years of war and wandering, after all that unbearable longing for home, the moment he finally has it, the moment he's reunited with Penelope and his kingdom, he learns he must leave again. Not back to the sea this time, but inland, on foot, into the complete unknown, to fulfill a god's strange command. That single detail tells you something profound about who Odysseus truly was. He was a man who could never quite rest, never fully settle, never stop moving. The journey was, in a sense, his whole nature and his fate. He completes the task, plants the oar in that distant land, makes his peace with Poseidon at last, and finally returns home to Ithaca a second time. He earns his peace. But even now, even here, the story is still not over. There is one more turn to come. And here is the strangest, most tragic part of all. Years earlier, during his long wandering, Odysseus had a son with the sorceress Circe on her island, a boy named Telegonus. That son grew to manhood, never having met his father. And one day, Telegonus set sail to search for the father he'd never known. Fate, cruel as ever, brought him to the shores of Ithaca, but he had no idea it was Ithaca, no idea he'd arrived at his father's own kingdom. A skirmish broke out on the beach, a confused fight in the confusion. And Telegonus, not recognizing the older warrior who came to defend the land, struck him down and killed him. That old warrior was Odysseus, his own father. The prophecy Tiresias had given all those years before was fulfilled to the letter. Death would come from the sea. Telegonus had come from across the sea, and the tip of the spear that killed Odysseus was said to be fashioned from the venomous spine of a stingray, a creature of the sea. The ocean claimed him in the end, after all. Sit with the terrible irony of this for a moment. Odysseus defeated monsters that would have destroyed any other man. He outwitted gods. For 20 relentless years, he survived every conceivable danger the world could throw at him: giants, witches, whirlpools, the wrath of the sea god himself. And in the end, what killed him? His own son. A son he had never met, who killed him entirely by accident, not even knowing who he was. The single greatest survivor in all of mythology died in perhaps the most meaningless, random way imaginable. And that is the very essence of Greek tragedy. You cannot outrun your fate, no matter how clever you are. Odysseus had literally heard the prophecy, "Death will come from the sea," spoken to his face in the underworld. He knew it was coming. And still he could never truly see it. Because fate, in these ancient stories, always strikes from exactly the one direction you aren't watching. That's what makes it fate, and not merely bad luck. So why does almost no one know this haunting sequel? Why does the story seem to just stop at the happy homecoming? Because this final chapter isn't in Homer's Odyssey at all. It was told in a separate ancient epic, a poem called the Telegony, named for that fateful son. And over the long centuries, that text was almost entirely lost. It crumbled away, was never copied and preserved enough by later scribes, and today survives only in scattered fragments and brief second-hand summaries written by others who once read it. So Odysseus' true and final end effectively vanished into the dust of history, while the version with the satisfying homecoming survived and became the one we all know. Homer left us a hero safely home at last. The rest, the prophecy, the second journey, the tragic death, was quietly, almost mercifully, erased by time. So the real ending of the Odyssey isn't a triumph at all. It's a quiet, ironic, and deeply tragic farewell. The man of the sea, who fought and survived the sea for 20 long years, was killed in the very end by a spine drawn from that same sea at the hands of a son he'd never known. Perhaps that's exactly why Homer, or whoever shaped the version we remember, chose not to tell it. Some heroes' true endings are simply too bitter, too bleak, too cruel to fit inside a legend that was meant to inspire. So what do you think? Did Odysseus truly deserve this strange, lonely, accidental fate after everything he survived and everyone he lost? Tell me honestly in the comments. And you can find the video where we lay out the entire Iliad and Odyssey saga, finally connected and in the right order, right there on screen. Subscribe.